Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the 2019 Fall Fellows Retreat and Annual Meeting. The purpose of this webinar is to give you a better sense for what to expect at the event and how to prepare. My name is Angie Harmon, and I'm the Program Officer at the NAEd. I'm joined by Maria Gahn, Director of Professional Development Programs. At this point, you know us both well by email, and we look forward to meeting you in person. If you have any technical difficulties with this webinar, please contact Zoom technical support at 1-888-799-9666, option 2. During today's webinar, we will start with a technical overview to ensure you know what to do if you have any issues with the audio and video. We'll then discuss who will be present at the event, and we'll briefly run through the online agenda. We'll go into detail about 3 sessions: the poster session, mentoring sessions, and fellows forums. And we'll conclude by providing general tips on how to prepare for the event. We'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end of the webinar. Just a few quick things before we get started. The audio for today's event will be streamed through your computer speakers. We will be taking questions through the Q&A box located in the lower right-hand side of your screen. Simply type your question in the box and click Send. The webinar is being recorded. Please understand that any questions you submit may be read aloud and included in our recording. A link to the recording, as well as a copy of the slides, will be posted on our website sometime next week. Once again, if you have any technical issues during the event, please contact Zoom technical support at 1-888-799-9666, option 2. As you know, the Fellows Retreat and NAEd Annual Meeting takes place from Wednesday, November 6th through Saturday, November 9th. The first 2 days of the event are the Fellows Retreat, followed by the NAEd Annual Meeting, which takes place on Friday, November 8th and Saturday, November 9th. Fellows are expected to be present for the entire event, November 6th through 9th. The retreat will be attended by several fellowship cohorts, including the 2018 and 2019 postdoc fellows, 2019 dissertation fellows, and 2019 research development awardees. There will also be a few 2017 postdoc and 2018 dissertation fellows in attendance who were unable to attend last year's retreat. Many NAEd members will be present at the retreat and will serve in various roles, including as mentors, senior discussants at the fellows forums, and speakers. Once the NAEd Annual Meeting begins, many more members will arrive. NAEd staff will be present throughout the entire event, including Maria and myself, as well as Greg White, Executive Director, Amy Berman, Deputy Director, and Tess Bonnet, Manager of Administration and Operations. We can't wait to meet you all. There will also be several former fellows in attendance at the retreat who will serve in the roles of mentor, senior discussant, and speaker. Spencer Program Officers, as well as the President of Spencer, Naila Swad Nasir, and NAEd President Gloria Ladson-Billings will also be in attendance. Finally, the NAEd Retreat Planning Committee, which is made up of NAEd members, will be at the retreat. The RPC is responsible for creating the content of the retreat to ensure that it is a valuable experience for all fellows.
Great, so now we're going to just quickly go through the agenda, which is available online at the URL you see on the slide here. I'm just going to switch over to that website. We just wanted to run through the agenda really quickly so you get a sense for what is happening on each day of the retreat. So if I scroll down here, you'll see that we start on Wednesday, November 6th. The dissertation fellows and awardees will arrive first, and they'll have lunch, and then they'll go right into their welcome session. So this is when you will all introduce yourselves to each other, and you'll get a chance to meet with Megan Franke, who's the chair of the PDC. Then the dissertation fellows and awardees will present during the poster session. I'm going to go into more detail about that in just a second. But I also want to mention for the postdoc fellows and awardees, we'd really love if you could be there in time for the poster session. I know the dissertation fellows and awardees would appreciate you being able to see their research. So then at 3:30, once the poster session is over, the cohorts will split up and the dissertation fellows and awardees will attend a former fellows panel. So you'll get to hear from some of our alumni during that session. And the postdoc fellows and awardees will have their welcome session, and then they'll go into a former fellows panel as well. That evening, we have a reception for everyone, which is going to be at the City View Room. It's just a couple blocks from your hotel, so you'll be able to walk there. Okay, on Thursday, November 7th, we start bright and early with registration and breakfast, and then we have our official opening and welcome to the retreat. Megan Bang, who is the Senior Vice President at Spencer, and Megan Franke again will give some remarks. And then we'll start with our first retreat sessions. So in a couple of weeks, you'll receive from us a survey asking which of the following 3 sessions you'd like to attend. And we'll put a sticky on your name tag so you can remember which one you signed up for, because we know it's hard to remember all these details. But this year we have 3 topics: giving and getting critique, navigating the academic job market, and fostering collaborative research relationships. And these are led by NAEd members and senior scholars. For those who are new fellows or awardees, these sessions are chosen based on feedback from fellows at previous retreats. So for postdoc fellows who are returning for their 3rd retreat, you may notice that you see some topics that have been there in previous retreats, so you can certainly choose one that you haven't been to before. All right, then in the afternoon, we have a lot of our mentoring sessions. So we'll go into individual mentoring first. I'll go into more detail about mentoring in just a moment. I also want to point out that the Research Development Awardees will have a welcome session from Gloria Ladson-Billings, who's the NAEd president, and Nahila Swad Nasir, who's the Spencer president, at 11:30 this day. So for the RDAs, we will make sure that your individual mentoring is not scheduled at this time so that you can attend this session. You can ignore a couple of these things that follow because these are just for NAEd members. The next session that you all will attend will be this one at 2 p.m. This is a special session given by Adam Gameron, who's the NAEd Vice President, as well as the President of the William T. Grant Foundation, and then Gloria and Nahila as well. They're going to talk about the state of the field of education research, and we want this to be a session where you can ask some questions, and we want it to be more of a discussion than just a lecture. That's the purpose of that. Then in the afternoon, we'll have more individual mentoring, followed by the group mentoring sessions, and then you all will adjourn at 5 p.m. for hopefully a quick nap before we go into our dinner. So the Fellows and Awardees dinner is a lot of fun. It's mostly the cohorts, but also the mentors will be there as well, and NAEd staff. It's not a formal dinner. It's casual and comfortable, a chance for you all to get to know each other. And it's at Teddy and the Bully, which is a good walk from your hotels. I think it's about a 20-minute walk, so we'll have a bus if you prefer to take the bus. And of course, we don't know what the weather will be like. Last year we had a big snowstorm during the event, so a bus might be the better option. Okay, so Friday again, start nice and early. Most of Friday morning is going to be the Fellows Forums, and I'll go into more detail about them here in just a minute, but these are going to be given by 2017 and 2018 postdoc fellows. So for other fellows and awardees, you can choose which one sounds most interesting to you and attend that session. So they go throughout the morning. Another quick note, at 9:30, Research Development Awardees will meet with their second mentor for individual mentoring. And then we have more fellows forums throughout the morning. And then we will have lunch. And right after lunch is when our first plenary session takes place. So this is technically the start of the NAEd annual meeting. So you'll see that a lot more NAEd members will come for this session. So the plenary sessions, we have 3 topics this year that are based on either so to speak, a hot topic in education, research that NAEd is conducting, and then the third one is usually about inequality in education, and that can come from various lenses and topics. So this year, the quote-unquote inequality session is School Spending for Equity, Exposing the Consequences of School Finance Inequality and Assessing Responses. And then from 3:30 to 5, we have a walking tour of DC. That's optional. If you've been to DC before and you'd rather skip that, that's perfectly fine. On your registration survey was a question about whether you'd like to attend this. So if you decide you do want to attend it, just shoot us an email so we have a good sense for the number of people who plan to attend. And then on Friday evening, we have more of a formal reception and dinner. So the Spencer reception followed by the annual meeting dinner, which are both at the Fairmont Hotel. Again, there's a bus that will take you there, but it's also about a 20-minute walk. So it is a formal a formal event, more formal than the dinner before, the night before, but certainly don't feel like it won't be a stuffy event. It'll be a really great opportunity for you to continue to get to know each other and to meet our members. And this is when our new members who were elected in February will be formally inducted. And then Saturday is just a half day. We have our final 2 plenaries, Political Bias in the College Classroom and Reaping the Rewards of the IES Reading for Understanding Initiative. And then our closing lunch, the programming is still to be determined for this, so I would just plan to be in DC until I would say about 1:30 that afternoon, so that you have plenty of time to get to the airport. Alrighty, I'll go back to our slides here. So now I'll talk a little bit more in detail about a couple of the sessions that you might have some questions about. So the first one is the dissertation poster session. This is on Wednesday, November 6th, and this is the time during which dissertation fellows and research development awardees will present their research. So Angie sent out an email a couple of weeks ago to you all with more information about the poster session, and it also included the time that you'll be presenting, because we have essentially, we have half of you presenting for the first 35 minutes, and then we're switching and having the other half present for the second half. This way you'll get to see each other's research. So the audience for this session will be your peers, but the retreat planning committee will also be there, NAEd staff, and we also, like I said, encourage the postdoc fellows and awardees to arrive in time so you can view the posters as well. This information was in the email, but I just want to reiterate that the general dimensions of your poster should be 3 by 4 feet. NAEd will provide cardboard, tape, and thumbtacks. And to make travel easier, we would recommend printing the poster ahead of time on fabric that fits in your suitcase or laminated paper that can roll into a tube. So on the poster, you should provide information that describes your study, your research questions, methods, preliminary findings, and any emerging or persistent questions. But you should think of this as a Frankendraft rather than a finished product. We completely understand that you are still at the beginning of your project, and we don't expect this to be necessarily a polished end result. We will reimburse you for all of your poster expenses, so please make sure to keep your receipts for that. Okay, so the mentoring sessions. These will take place on Thursday, November 7th. You'll receive an email from Angie in the next week, which will put you in touch with your mentor and the other fellows and awardees in your mentoring group. Each mentor group is made up of 2 to 4 fellows and awardees, and the email will outline at what time you'll meet individually with your mentor as well as what time you'll meet as a group. So in Angie's email, you'll also receive instructions on how to upload several materials to Dropbox by October 18th so that your mentor has ample time to review the materials before the retreat. She'll also give you access to the appropriate Dropbox folder once she sends the email. I know some people don't use Dropbox. Sometimes universities, the emails don't work with Dropbox, so if you need to send the materials in a different way, that's perfectly fine. So you'll upload the narrative and personal statement from your application as well as a progress statement of no more than 2 pages. In the progress statement, you can describe where you are with your project, any challenges you're facing, and any changes to your project. This will all be included in the email, so don't feel like you have to jot this all down, but we just wanted to give you a sense for what we're expecting. And then the 2017 and 2018 postdoc fellows who are presenting at the Fellows Forums can submit the paper that they're presenting to the Dropbox. The benefit of the mentoring sessions is that you have individual time with a mentor who has read through your project and is happy to answer any questions you might have. And in addition, the group mentoring session is really valuable as well. Your group is organized by who you requested as a mentor, so there will be common themes among the fellows and awardees in each group, such as your disciplinary interests or methodological approaches. And during the group session, you can talk about your field at large as well as your specific projects. When the other fellows and awardees in your mentoring group are meeting individually with the mentor, you'll have downtime during which you can informally network with other fellows at the event. And I just want to make a couple notes for the research development awardees because your mentoring is slightly different. That's because you have actually 2 mentors assigned to you at the event. So you'll meet with your first mentor individually and in a group on Thursday like all the other fellows will, but then you'll have a second mentor and you'll meet with them on Friday, and that will just be an individual session, not a group session. So Angie will actually be sending you 2 emails and 2 Dropbox folders, so if you get confused, just shoot her an email, she'll help you out. And you can submit the same materials to each mentor folder. I also want to mention for the RDAs, you completed a survey a couple months ago where we asked you what exactly you would like to get out of your mentoring session. Angie is going to share that information with your mentors so they know what it is that you're looking to talk about. And we did this because you only are attending 1 retreat, so we want to make sure you're getting the most value from the mentoring experience. Okay, so one more session I wanted to go into detail about are the Fellows Forums. So these take place on Friday, November 8th, and they're an opportunity for the 2017 and 2018 postdoc fellows to present their research in a positive and collegial environment. So you're also going to receive an email from Angie that connects you to your senior discussant and the other fellows in your Fellows Forum group. So each group is made up of 2 to 4 fellows and is assigned a senior discussant who's either an NAEd member or former fellow. And we organize these groups based on discipline and methodology. There's not always a perfect match of interests between fellows in the same group, but the senior discussant will have relevant experience and can provide feedback specific to each of you. The senior discussant also reads your project abstract in advance of agreeing to the role to ensure that they feel comfortable providing feedback on your project content. So in Angie's email, she'll explain what you will need to upload to Dropbox and will give you access to the appropriate Dropbox folder. So please note this means you will have access to 2 separate Dropbox folders in advance of the retreat. One will be named after your mentor and one named after your senior discussant. And the materials you upload for each person are slightly different. So just make sure to read Angie's emails carefully so you understand what it is we're asking you to upload. And please note that we do have the same deadline for each, for the mentoring and the Fellows Forums materials. So during the Fellows Forums themselves, each fellow has 20 minutes to present his or her research, and it's really important that you stick to the time limit to make sure all fellows have plenty of time to present. So it's always a good idea to practice your presentation several times and time yourself and make sure you're sticking to the 20 minutes. So the senior discussant will introduce the panel. She or he will keep time and manage the Q&A period at the end. The senior discussant also provides a brief summary of the presentations and ties them together, talking about common themes. In the presentation room, you will have access to a projector, computer, clicker, and podium. You can use your own laptop if you wish, though I would recommend that you bring your presentation on a jump drive and use the computer in the presentation room if possible, simply because it's just a bit easier for us to set it up in advance, so it often will prevent any technical issues from arising. That being said, if you feel much more comfortable using your own laptop, that's totally fine, and we'll have the cords available to connect your computer to the projector. I would also note if you have a Mac and you're planning to use a keynote presentation, please make sure to bring the Mac laptop because the desktop computers in the presentation room are HPs, and so we have trouble using Keynote on those computers. There's also the option to project a video with sound during your presentation. If you need sound, just let us know in advance when you upload your slides in October. We'll need to test your slides on Thursday afternoon or early Friday morning just to make sure everything's working fine. Finally, it's always a good idea to bring a backup of your presentation on a flash drive in case of any technical difficulties. The NAEd staff will be there to help you and make sure everything runs smoothly.
All right. If you haven't already, please complete the registration form by September 30th to guarantee you get a hotel room in our block. You will receive an email confirmation from me in late October with your hotel reservation details. If you have any edits to the reservation, please respond to that email promptly so I can send your changes to the hotel. After the meeting, the NAEd will reimburse you for the following expenses: your flight or train if you didn't book through our travel agent, group transportation to and from the airport, meals and incidentals on travel days, meals that are not provided during the event, and poster printing for the dissertation fellows and awardees. Please note that you are not provided a per diem, but rather we will reimburse you for expenses after the event concludes. You will complete our expense reimbursement form and send all receipts to us via email or mail. We will send an email with further instructions on how to do this after the event. In the meantime, you can review our reimbursement policies, which are outlined on the form. Please wait until after the event to send all receipts at once. Many of you are bringing guests to DC so that they can explore the city while you're at the event. This is perfectly fine. You're welcome to have them stay in your hotel room, but please let me know in advance. However, the event itself is really meant to be a time for fellows to get to know one another and network with NAEd members and former fellows, so we ask that you don't bring guests to the event. You're, of course, welcome to meet them after the sessions conclude each day. There is a mother's room at the NAS building, so please let me know if you'll need access to it. We won't need to schedule an appointment for you to use it at a specific time, but it's helpful for us to know approximately how many people will need it each day of the event. The mother's room has couches, outlets, and a fridge. Lastly, because the NAS building is a workspace and most of the event takes place during the work week, we ask that you please don't bring babies to the event out of respect for our colleagues. Let's talk about the dress code. So this is business casual, so please, no jeans. Ties and suits are not necessary. Dresses are fine. Hose is not required. Please make sure you're comfortable. The floors at NAS are hard stone, so it's important you have comfortable shoes. Typical November weather in DC can range from 40 to 60 degrees, and the building can be very cold, so we recommend dressing in layers. The majority of events take place at NAS, which is about a 10-minute walk from your hotel. The Wednesday evening reception is right around the corner from your hotel, and we'll provide buses between your hotel and the dinner locations on Thursday and Friday. So, let's talk about approaching the NAEd members. They're present at the event and are very happy to speak with fellows, so please feel free to approach them. Though you may not be matched with someone for formal mentoring, there is plenty of opportunity for informal networking throughout the event at meals and breaks. If you would like to meet a specific NAEd member or former fellow, please let us know and we can confirm if they will be in attendance and what days will be present. We'll start planning for the spring retreat as soon as the annual meeting concludes, so if there's a member or former fellow you want to connect with who won't be at the event, please keep in mind that you could request that person as a mentor for the spring retreat. Before we start answering questions, I want to lastly mention that we will have at the event a physical program book for each attendee that includes the agenda as well as a picture, bio, and project abstract for each fellow and awardee. We use the version of your bio and abstract from the NAEd website, so if you have any edits to make, please send them to us by October 11th to make sure that they're included in the book. We'd now like to open up the webinar to your questions. Please type them in the question box and hit send.
Sure. All right, hello everybody again. We're going to open it up for questions, so if you have a question, please put it in the text box on your screen. We'll go ahead and get started here. So someone is asking, does ground transportation go towards the $500 limit on travel? And the answer is no, it does not. So the $500 limit is just meant to be for your flight. And if you do plan to, if you anticipate having to spend more than $500 on a flight, reach out to Angie and see what we can do. But I think most of you have probably already booked your flights at this point. All right, let's see. So when will we find out who our mentor is? So that will be in the next week. You'll get an email from Angie that connects you with your mentoring group. And it will also go into detail about what you need to upload before the mentoring sessions and when exactly you're meeting with your mentor. So you're going to get a couple emails from us with a lot of details. So I would just say, please make sure you thoroughly read them. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Angie. Okay, we have a question about the mother's room. Do we need to reserve it ahead of time or request a key? So no, you do not. The room is open. We just ask if you need it so that we can make sure, first of all, that you know where it is, but also we have a sense of how many people need it each day. But you're welcome to use it any time during the day that you can take a break. Someone's asking if their flight's scheduled to leave DC at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Is that okay? That's perfectly fine. You could head out right at, especially if it's out of DCA. We're actually quite close to DCA, probably about a 15-minute Uber ride, especially on a Saturday. So you have plenty of time to get there. And I'm actually a very nervous, anxious flyer, and I only give myself an hour at DCA. Maybe that's not a good thing, but it's a pretty quick airport, so you should be fine. If you're flying out of Dulles, I would definitely give yourself more time. That's more like probably a 45-minute Uber, I would say, from our building.
Someone's asking if when the individual mentoring sessions are happening, whether each person gets a different mentor or if there's a moment of downtime. So there is, in fact, some downtime, and you can use this time to network informally with other fellows or other people at the event.
How do we know which NAEd mentors and former fellows will be in attendance? So that information is primarily not really confirmed until right before the event. So the way we share the information usually is that, well, first of all, you'll know who your mentor is, but the way to find out what other mentors are there is in the physical program book that we give you. But we are also happy to, if you're interested, you can shoot us an email like maybe 2 weeks before the event, and we can tell you who's coming, because we're still inviting people and confirming, so we don't have our final list yet. But if you're curious to know who's coming, I'm happy to send you the list, and you can get a sense for who you might want to meet with over lunch or grab during a break.
Let's see. Someone's asking that they're going to be in a conference prior to arriving at DC from a different location other than their home. No, this is not a problem with our reimbursement. It's perfectly fine for you to arrive or depart to some place that's not your home.
Someone is asking if like deep blue jeans are okay, if you wear like a blazer and a button-up. I would say that's probably fine. I would encourage you to think about wearing like slacks, just because most people will wear business casual, so I think you'll feel more comfortable if you're dressed sort of at the same level of formality as everyone else. But really the most formal event is the Friday dinner. So that's the event at which you definitely don't want to wear jeans. And for the other, like the reception and the fellows dinner on Thursday night, you can change into jeans. That's totally fine. We're really just talking about during the day. When you're meeting your mentors, I would suggest wearing slacks rather than jeans, just to dress up a little bit. What should we expect from the group mentoring sessions? This is a good question. So group mentoring can really differ depending on the individuals, to be honest with you. So the mentors will really drive the session. Sometimes they'll ask you in advance what it is you'd like to get out of group mentoring. Sometimes they'll let it be really an impromptu conversation. I would say most of them do the latter. So it's, they've met with you individually already, so they have a good sense for your projects, and they've gotten to know you a little bit. And then when you come together as a group, it's your chance to talk about your field or education in a broader way. You can also talk about challenges you're facing, in terms of your professional goals. So it's really not something you need to prepare for necessarily. For the individual mentoring, definitely think about the kinds of things you want to get advice from your mentor about. But the group mentoring can be a little bit more casual, I guess I would say. Let's see.
So somebody's asking whether there's assigned seating for dinners and lunches. No, we don't have assigned seating for this. We encourage you, though, to make use of this time to get to know fellows or mentors that you haven't had a chance to talk with yet.
Someone is asking about parking at the hotel. So if you would like to park at the hotel, NAEd will cover that expense. So the hotel should know to not charge you directly, but rather charge your room, so it'll go to our account. They have in the past made a mistake and charged the individual. So if they do that, just make sure you have your receipt for parking and you can submit it as a reimbursement expense after the event. All right, let's see. Someone's asking, will we have to share details of our research project with other people in our mentorship group? So not necessarily. One thing I will say though, the Dropbox folder you're being assigned to will be giving access to up to 4 fellows or awardees in your mentoring group plus your mentor. So, I mean, potentially someone could open all the files and look at them, but I would be shocked if they would take the time to do that. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing this in the Dropbox folder, you can always send it to us and we'll share it with your mentor. But then in terms of the group mentoring session, you're not necessarily going into detail about your research project unless that's how the group wants to take the conversation. You could also be talking about more general or broad topics within the field and talking about your career as well.
All right. Someone is asking if you'll meet with the same mentor in fall and the spring, and whether mentors typically stay in touch with fellows throughout the year. So we try not to match you with the same mentor unless you specifically request the same person again, and they're also available. Otherwise, unless you specifically make that request, we're going to match you with someone new. And yes, frequently the mentors do stay in contact with fellows after the event.
Someone asked, are the speakers from the first plenary session going to be at the event during the day, and could we sign up to meet with them? Why don't you send us an email, because some of the plenary session speakers will be there throughout the event. Some are just there for their session. It depends on the person. And we could certainly put you in touch with them. Maybe they can meet you over lunch one day or during a break. So that would be more of an informal session rather than like the formal scheduled mentoring. Someone who lives in DC is asking if you can park at the hotel if you're not staying at the hotel. Yes, you definitely can. Or is public transit a better option? I think probably public transport. Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends.
There's good public transport options right there.
Yeah, that's true. It's foggy. It's kind of south of Foggy Bottom, so the metro is not super close. You can also take an Uber if that's easier for you. We'll reimburse you for that, or you're welcome to drive, whatever is easier for you. And even if you are local, if you want to stay at the hotel, you're welcome to. We NAEd staff all stay at the hotel even though we live in DC, just because the days are so early. Are the mentoring groups mixed between dissertation and postdoc fellows? You want to take that one?
Yes, they're all fairly mixed. So you'll have the opportunity to speak with people from both groups.
Someone's asking, so I requested to have early hotel check-in. Is that going to be possible? So this is something last year we actually had some issues with because there were a couple people who wanted early check-in, but the hotel wasn't able to do that for them. So what we do is if you request it, we'll tell the hotel that you're arriving early, but they can't guarantee that a room will be ready. So I think the best option is you can leave your things at the hotel if you need to, or you're welcome to bring your suitcase with you to the NAS building if you need to. This person is specifically asking about having children with you. We did say that we prefer that people don't bring babies or small children to the NAS building, but of course, if that's your only option, we can work with you and we'll figure something out. And we'll let the hotel know that you want to check in early if possible. So just make sure that Angie knows that you want to early check-in if you haven't already asked. Can nursing mothers nurse their children in the mother's room? Yeah, you definitely can. If you prefer, you can also go back to the hotel and do it wherever you're comfortable. We understand that if you're nursing, you need to take frequent breaks, and that's completely fine. How long does it normally take to be reimbursed after the event? So that's a great question. It's hard to really estimate that simply because we get so many, as you can imagine. All the reimbursements come in at the same time, right after the event. I would say the earlier you get it in, the better. And usually it takes like 2 to 3 weeks for you to get your check. We do have to mail a check to you, so that's why it takes a little bit longer. We don't do a direct deposit.
Someone's asking if you'll know who's in your mentoring group in advance of the event. So yes, when I send out the mentoring email, it will list each fellow or awardee who is part of that group.
How close is the hotel to the NAS building? It is about, I would say, an 8-minute walk, so it's very close, just a few blocks away. That looks like our last question, but we'll give you another minute or two in case you think of anything else. And of course, you can always email us.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's asked, are there any meals that will not be reimbursed? That's a good question. So for the most part, no. During the actual retreat days itself, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner covered for you. So mostly it's the travel days that we'll reimburse your meals for. And then on Saturday, you have lunch, but then obviously you don't have dinner because you'll be leaving that day. So Saturday evening dinner, for example, will be reimbursed.
I've got a question about whether train tickets are reimbursable under the $500 earmarked for airfare. Yes, train tickets are fine.
Someone asked, should we have our laptops at the conference? I do think it's helpful to have it with you, just because like when you're mentoring, sometimes you might want to pull something up on your computer. And also there is some time, especially on Thursday, when the other people in your mentoring group are meeting the mentor individually, that you'll have time, a little bit of downtime at the NAS building. So if you want to get some work done, that's a good time to do it as well.
Someone's asking about the event for which you should email me. That's the DC walking tour. So we've hired a guide, and he'll take you around some of the monuments and memorials that are right near the building. On your survey, there was a question about this, but if you didn't fill it out and you would like to attend, or you would like to change your mind about it, just email me and let me know.
So if there are no flights out on the 9th, will an additional hotel night be covered? I would actually email Angie about that, because it depends on where you're coming from and other factors. So when it comes to hotels and flight issues, it's better to work directly with you. For clarification, NAEd will reimburse for meals from November 6th through 9th. So just to clarify that, so during the event itself, most of the meals are provided. So any meal that's not provided, in other words, any meal that's not on your agenda, on the event agenda, will be reimbursed for, plus meals on the 2 days you're traveling to and from DC.
Yes, the slides and this webinar will be available. We should post it within a week.
Any other questions?
Someone is asking if there will be a session only for the research development awardees. So what you will have is the welcome session with Gloria and Naila.
And also, for the RDAs, I'm thinking on Friday, you have your second mentoring session. And if you want to, as a group, find a room and just informally kind of network between yourselves, you're 100% welcome to do that, if that would be helpful to you all. We're happy to tell you what rooms you can use or help facilitate that if you need. And that might be our last question. All right, well, if you think of anything else, of course, you can email us. And we're really excited to meet you all. It's always such a fun event. You're going to get a lot out of it. And we're really looking forward to putting faces to names finally. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you in a couple of months.
All right, see you then.